What's happening, MSPs and IT pros? Welcome to the Rocket MSP podcast. I'm Steve Taylor, your host. And, normally this is the show where we ask the tough questions. Today I am joined by Alex Farling from Empath. Is it so? I'm confused because I know Wes has Empath and then there's Empath Cyber. Are those different?
There go the tough questions already. Yeah. So Empath originally launched as a cybersecurity training platform. And I spent 6 months in Wes's ear going, you got to teach more than cyber. Empath has to be bigger than that. We need to teach not just cybersecurity, but we need to teach sales. We need to teach operations. We need to teach finance. We need to teach service management. So all of those things needing to exist led to a shift from Empath Cyber to Empath MSP, which is what the product is ultimately going to be today.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I've got a bunch of questions. What would you say inspired you to create Empath MSP?
Well, to start with, it was Wes's inspiration, right? He's a teacher by heart. I don't know
Mhm.
if everybody knows this. He actually used to be a teacher. Wes was teaching technology, teaching cybersecurity in colleges before he was a CISO at a bank, and before he was the CISO for Perch, and eventually got acquired by ConnectWise. So Wes has a deep background in education. He started this project on his own as just a little side gig as while he was kind of working on a bunch of other things. And when I sat down with him and kind of sold him the vision of what I thought it ought to be, which was way bigger than what he was thinking, he goes, "You got to come on board and help me do this." So that's when we started to put this together, and then we kind of assessed where Wes and I fit and what our specialties are. Obviously, he's one of the best cyber guys in the channel. My strong point is sales and account management and that softer side of the business. And then we brought in Kyle Christensen, obviously, to fill in the operational stuff that is a little bit out of both Wes's and my wheelhouse. So we brought it together with the vision around trying to solve for all of the pain points that MSPs have. Because if we look at our industry, everybody's been following the advice of some folks who are real near retirement, right? Some of the real big thought leaders. Gary Pica's, his product has been acquired, his business has been acquired. He's at Kaseya. He's still doing things in the background, but he's not nearly as front and center as he used to be. Alex Rogers, not nearly as front and center as he used to be. Some of the biggest and best coaches, and even folks like the folks from Service Leadership, right? They got acquired by ConnectWise. They're way quieter than they used to be.
Mhm.
So what we're trying to do is backfill what we see as an educational gap, an educational experience gap, by bringing together some of the smartest and brightest minds in the space and giving them a platform. It's not about my platform. It's not about Wes's platform. It's not about Kyle's platform. It's about opening up this platform that we're building so we can bring in people, the best service managers in the space, to talk about service management, and the best salespeople in the space to talk about how do you sell cybersecurity, the best operations people in the space to talk about how do you run a profitable business. So the goal, it really is to kind of decentralize thought leadership to make sure that we're continuing to bring forward the best and the brightest, in every little niche that is somebody's superpower.
I like it. So, since you brought up the term, I I would be remiss if I didn't bring up this pretty popular poll that I ran a week ago. I wanted to start, well, maybe over a week ago now. I wanted to start an argument before the new year. I wanted to know how people pronounce CISO.
Yeah, I'm in
And
the CISO category, but yeah,
I don't
I'm one of the 78 percenters there.
I don't remember who it was, but I had somebody on the podcast last year and they were saying CISO.
I hear it
I'm
every
like,
every now and
oh,
again, and I'm like, I don't know, it doesn't sit well.
it like I guess I could see CISO, but CISO with like a Z sound was really weird.
Yeah,
And then I thought I'd just screw around and put CISO in there, and
let's
some
be
people are,
honest. This is just proof that we have too many acronyms in this space.
it really
Um,
is,
you
man.
know, but we talk about VCIOs all the time, and Kyle and I kind of have a rant that we go on around VCIO, and stop calling it that when you're carrying a sales quota and going out and doing sales work. But those are the barriers we want to break down. We want to get people having those conversations. So kind of one of our goals at Empath is to enable conversation around these kind of things to help people understand, like, what is real CIO work versus what is inflated account management, or account management with an inflated ego to give yourself a better title when really all you're doing is going out and carrying water for the sales team.
Now, Your platform Empath is not live today, correct?
Correct.
People can't
We have a
sign up.
Yeah, we have a V1 of the platform, and people can come sign up for it. It's
Hmm,
not nearly as exciting as we'd like. The original platform launched about a year ago in a white labeled platform. So we're using somebody else's platform, delivering content through that platform. The end of this month, we will have our platform live. We're about to go into a code freeze and a heavy beta testing, process to make sure that we get the V1 of the product, or V2, I guess, of the product out the door. This is all on our own code base. This is no white label. We can take it in any direction we want. Um, we've spent a lot of time on it. Think it's beautiful. I think they've done a really fantastic job of getting it out there. So we'll start to, if you follow any of the three of us on social, we'll start to drip some screenshots, some images, some probably some video as we start ramping up to this big release that we've got coming right around the 1st of February.
great. So February 1st launch. What is the onboarding process going to be like for an MSP that wants to join?
Yeah, so it's the product itself is really just around bringing the team for education. So the onboarding process really feels like get the team in the platform and introduce them to learning journeys. Something that we're doing different from all of the other training platforms that exist in the space is we're focusing this around learning journeys. So when I onboard a team, right, when I bring Steve into my organization and I assign him training courses, we're going to build those into a learning journey because and you know this, you swim in the depths of Reddit just like the rest of us. It's a terrible place being a tier one engineer at a lot of MSPs. They feel overworked, underpaid, like they're in a dead end job, and like they just don't have a lot of appreciation and respect for what's happening. So part of the platform is giving those guys some visibility into, hey, you just got hired from the AT&T store and brought into an MSP. It's kind of a tough place to be. You're going to get a bunch of printer tickets. You're going to get yelled at a little bit. Life isn't always going to be amazing, but there's room to grow here. So we're going to show these folks a career path that says, hey, if you want, do you want to become a sales engineer? Do you want to become a cybersecurity guy? Do you want to become a VCIO? These are the courses you'd have to take over the next 12, 18, 24 months to start to work your career in a different direction. So MSPs will be able to build their own. We'll give you some pre-populated stuff, but they'll be able to build out their own career path that says, hey, to take this guy from a tier one engineer to a CIO, I need 36 months and I need him to take all of this training. And this is kind of how that builds out. So the learning journey is a big chunk of what we're putting out there to give a little bit of accountability to the owners to make time for their folks to train, and a little bit of accountability to the employees to do the training that's been assigned to take them along the career path that they've agreed with their manager is the direction they want to go in their company and in their career.
Now, you mentioned, um, hiring somebody that works at AT&T selling cell phones, um, or whatever they're doing for AT&T, right? But when I hear someone that works for AT&T, I immediately think slinging cell phones, or
Yeah.
maybe they're like the install guy,
Yeah,
installing
I don't know a
AT&T
lot of
fiber.
MSPs that are hiring from Meta and Google and Darktrace, right? They're
Yeah.
typically hiring entry level folks. One of the best analogies I've ever heard about this was Peter Kajawa from Service Leadership. He said MSPs need to behave like high school and college football teams, right? They're always bringing in new talent because they know they're also always graduating talent.
Mhm.
And MSPs are probably not the place for the best and the brightest to always stay and hang out forever, right? These jobs are career starter jobs because the economics of an MSP says I have to charge a pretty high multiple of somebody's salary in order to keep them and be profitable on that person. So eventually the best of the best are going to get plucked away from us. And at my MSP, they were getting hired by the state of Delaware. They were getting hired by Delaware State University. They were being taken away from us, by organizations that had better benefits, could pay a little better, lifetime health care and all this other stuff that we just couldn't compete with. And every MSP is up against that. It's a real problem that we have. There's evidence and reporting out there that says we're short about 4 million cyber and technology jobs right now worldwide. There is a serious need to find young people, get them involved in technology, and get them educated. And that's really the problem we're trying to solve. But we just believe that the majority of the folks coming into the MSP space are starting at a pretty entry level spot. So we need to meet them there with content that's specific to their needs.
That's really awesome that you're realizing that, and you're kind of focusing on that. But what about the engineer who's been at an MSP for 5 or 6 years? And I mean, 5 or 6 years at an MSP is almost like
It's a battle tested veteran right there.
I mean, yeah, I mean, 5 or 6 years in an MSP, if you think about it, they have the knowledge and skill set that compares to, like, a 25-year corporate IT veteran
Maybe so. They've
because of
seen a lot.
all the
Like,
networks and everything that they get to
yep,
experience, right?
yep.
So,
Um,
what are you gonna have for those guys?
Yeah, so the content varies, but even for those folks, right? If I've been there for 5 years, I probably am still not excited to stay in the same job that I'm in for the next 5 years, right? I probably want to grow into whatever my next role is. So we will have training, and those people will just start in a different place in that learning journey, right? They might start halfway through the learning journey to VCIO. They might start halfway through a learning journey to go be a mid-level manager, whether it's a service manager or something else, but there will be content in there for everyone, no matter their role or no matter their tenure. We're even working on, and this won't be in release one, but in some of the future releases, there will be peer groups. So, not really peer groups, not to compete with but private groups where we can bring all the service managers together and let them, communicate together in a place that's not the cesspool that Reddit is. Just qualified service managers having service manager talks, and qualified VCIOs having VCIO talks, and sales guys having sales talks. So, we're going to have some private communities based on your role that you can get invited into to help you upskill in the role that you're in, or maybe work towards the role that you want to go to. But a guy who's been there 3, 4, 5 years, they still need training, right? They need to start at this point. They probably need to be learning what AI is and learning how that's going to impact their customers' businesses, learn about new tools and products. And we're actually even going to partner with some vendors to bring in some vendor specific content so that, once you go out and buy a fancy new product, you can learn how to deploy it. So a lot of that kind of content is going to go on the platform as well.
I like it.
Yeah.
Now, let's work. I guess I want to kind of work backwards here for a second. You said that a lot of MSPs find their talent at places like, AT&T or maybe McDonald's, or so somewhere where uh, customer service is kind of the key focus, and you can teach skills to anyone as
Hire
long
for
as they're,
personality, right? Hire for
yeah.
personality and teach the rest.
So let's kind of talk about the person who's maybe graduating out of MSP roles. For someone that's been working at IT consulting shops at MSPs for 8, 10 years, maybe, and for
Sorry, my
several,
dog's
maybe
got
not
strong
one the
opinions on
whole
what's
time.
going on here.
Was that?
I said my dog's got strong opinions on what's going on here. I don't know if you can hear him barking.
I do.
Sorry.
It's okay. So for people who have been at an MSP, eventually they start to feel burnout
Yeah.
because let's be honest, working at an MSP is hard. It's a lot of work. There's a
Mhm.
lot of networks. There's a lot to remember. So eventually they want to, let's call it, graduate from working at an MSP, and they want to go get a corporate gig.
Mhm.
What kind of training do these people need in order to get one of those coveted roles at, Meta or Google, or one of these like San Francisco startups where, I just think a lot of people in IT would love to be at a place where they've got, stock options and all the fast-paced stuff, but they might not know how to get there when they're already in an MSP.
Yeah. I don't know that I have the best answer for that. I think, these folks are, um, they're already conditioned for that fast-paced startup environment, being somebody who's on his third startup as we talk about it, right? We're, that environment, really, the MSP sets you up for that because you're looking at new things every day. Things are changing on the regular. I think for those folks, really, it's just about what is the next step in their journey. One of the things that they can and should be doing along their entire journey is continuing education, right? The never I think back to one of my engineers who just basically decided Windows 7 was kind of the last version of Windows he wanted to learn, and when newer versions came out, he was like, that thing's not going to be around very long, who cares? That guy became an account manager because he just wasn't going to keep up with the tech.
Mhm.
If our engineers are keeping up with the tech, if they're going out and doing the work and taking certifications or taking courses and doing those kind of things to continue to better themselves, they're probably in a better place than they realize to go talk to or look at getting into that startup life. Some of them may not have too much interest in that startup life by the time they're done at an MSP. And they might be looking for that state gig where they can work their 37 and a half hours a week, get a pension, and knock out early on Friday and go play some golf. But no matter what it is, I think we owe it to our teams to understand that this is a place that they might not spend their entire life. And we should be proud of the fact that somebody who works for us now has a tier 3 or a managerial job somewhere else. The one of the senior Linux administrators at the state of Delaware came out of my MSP. Used to be our Mac girl, right? She was fantastic. She graduated out of the MSP. She moved on. It sucked. It hurt a little bit. We lost a wealth of knowledge, but that just happens in this space. And what we didn't do, what we weren't ready for, was her departure, and how to backfill and back train the person who was coming up in her shoes and needed to fill those shoes. So that's kind of part of the problem that we're trying to fix. It's not so much how to send that person out the door gracefully, which is something MSP should do, but our goal is to make sure that it hurts less, and we can help you, bring the next person in more gracefully and get them up to speed faster.
Very cool. So it sounds like you're going to have a lot of technical training available in Empath. Are you going to have any like soft skills training? Like, here's how to de escalate situations with angry customers and that type of thing?
Yeah, we've actually got a fantastic CISO who's going to come in and teach a lot of the soft skills stuff. She is well respected in the industry. I'm not going to drop her name just yet, but we've got some folks coming in to teach all of that soft skill kind of stuff. We're also teaching, sales and account management, and a lot of that is the psychology of how and why you talk to someone in a certain way. All of that will be in the system. I'm actually in the process right now of building a budgeting for your customers course, to teach MSPs how to build a budget that their client can strategically plan with. So there will be a lot more than just technical content, and thus the reason we moved from Empath Cyber to empathmsp.com.
Now, how are you going to make sure that the content stays current? Because, much like all technology these days, it just is so rapidly evolving
Yeah.
that, you buy a computer and it's already obsolete a week later because Dell's discontinued that one and moved on to the next thing. And all things really start to feel that way,
Yeah.
except the iPhone. You at least get a year with an iPhone.
Well, and SaaS platforms only make this more difficult, right? You log
Yeah.
in one morning and they've moved all your buttons, so
Mhm.
that is going to be a real problem. We trust that there are enough really generous folks in the MSP community who will help us identify where content's out of touch, so that we can re-record it, update it, etc. But we'll also have content partners who come out and help us keep content up to date and continue to produce new content. A big portion of this is making sure that we have the content that MSPs need, or partnerships with people who have the content that MSPs need, so that we can make sure that we always have something there for someone at any skill level that's modern, current, up to date, and improves their skill set and moves them forward. So it's definitely a challenge that we're going to have to face. We'll do some of that with live streams and content inside the community. So we're going to run a series of internal podcasts, like private podcasts, just for our members. There will be a series of live streams and things like that. We're setting up a sales and account management monthly live call. We'll do a cybersecurity monthly live call. We'll do an operations live stream. We've got one just for service managers that Kyle's getting ready to spin up as we speak. So there's a lot of real time and live content that'll exist in the platform as well. So that we can make sure that we continue to keep everybody abreast of what's new and changing in the world. But the content for the individual platforms will have to stay up to date too, right? We have to make sure that when we move all the buttons in our SaaS platform, we keep that content up to date and make sure that everybody can find their way around.
Excellent. So you keep mentioning the community. What kind of role do you think the community is going to play in the learning experience?
I think it's huge. I think the community will be one of the things that keeps people coming back. You take what Nigel's doing over at the Tech Tribe, and they've built an awesome community. And the amount of educational content, the amount of actually structured educational content they have there is fairly minimal. That platform is really significantly about, and they have some great educational content. Don't get me wrong; it's one of the best VCIO kind of QBR trainings that the market has seen. But if you go look at Tech Tribe, it's all about community, and the community is what keeps people coming back, keeps people asking tougher and different and new questions. And it's really what inspires us to go out and build the next course, the next thing, to tackle the next topic. One of the most recent things that we did in Empath, I guess it's a few months old now, was data flow diagrams. And we sat down with MSPs and actually did a live stream and talked through and got participation from the crowd on how to do a data flow diagram to track data that's going through your client as it works its way through your client's environment, so you can see where that data lives and you can understand how to protect it, how to secure it, how to back it up, et cetera. So the questions that MSPs are coming up with will really lead towards our content. And to that end, most products out there have a feature request board, a place where you can go and, hey, I want to ask for this, and then give a thumbs up to the 3 things that I think somebody ought to be building. We're going to have that not just for features in the platform, but we're also going to have it for content. So if MSPs are missing content, they can come out and request content, and then we might have to go out into the community and find the right partner to come teach something that we're not the experts in. But I think this industry is wisening up to the fact that nobody is an expert on every part of MSP, no matter what their LinkedIn profile says. And so there are a lot of folks who have a superpower that's a very narrow niche. And we're dragging those folks in, like Dean Trimpalis is coming in and teaching some service manager courses. He's a fantastic service manager. He's amazing at it. He probably could do sales. He probably could do some operation stuff, but that's not his superpower. So we're going to put him where his superpower is and let him teach it. God forbid, you don't want me to do your finance and your operation stuff, right? Send the sales guy out to do the sales guy stuff. So I think there's a lot of value for the community by including the community in the thing that we're building. And that's kind of the mentality. Kyle said it early on. He said, we're going to decentralize thought leadership. And those words have stuck with me.
Oh man, I love that. Have you come up with a gamification solution for learning and accountability?
Yeah, we've got a lot of things around it. I won't say that we've solved it, but it's a work in progress. And as we release the initial platform, we'll get a lot of feedback from MSPs and figure out how to push that development forward. Today, we have a little bit of gamification and a little bit of accountability built into the platform. Gamification, like in my organization, here's who is on track with their education targets and who's off track, and where do I stand in between those. Here's what percentage of or how much of my time am I spending on training, how many courses have I done, et cetera. So we'll be able to compare folks to their own internal MSP. Long term, we'd like to show folks, compare them to maybe an anonymized version of everyone in my job role at Empath. So compared to all the other CIOs in Empath, how is Alex doing on his continuing ed, right? How's he doing on his training? Of all the engineers trying to become CIOs, how fast is Alex progressing compared to all the rest of them? We'd like to be able to show you that. Gamification is pretty easy, right? It's bells and whistles and charts and graphs and just kind of show you the data. What we will have a badging system. So when you complete a certain amount of content or achieve a certain thing, you'll get a badge for it. So you'll have a little trophy case that you can show off your individual achievements. But the big one's accountability. The really big one in my mind is accountability, because every MSP, the owner goes, "Oh, we're falling behind. Nobody knows everything about anything about this new Microsoft thing." Everybody gets training, and they go run through the help desk and go, "You get training, and you get training, and you get training," and then they go back to their office, and the phone rings, and the techs go, "Close a ticket, and a ticket, and a ticket," and the training never happens. And the owner comes back 6 months later and goes, "Why didn't everybody do their training? I told you were supposed to do training," and nobody really made time for it. So what we're going to release early on is an integration back to your PSA that opens a ticket in your PSA with a predetermined amount of time that you're supposed to spend every month or every week on training. Your owner says you get a half hour a week on training. We're actually going to have you track that time so that it shows in your utilization, so that we can report on it and see that it's happening. And your dispatchers and service coordinators can actually schedule blocks and say, "Steve, you know what, after lunch on Tuesday, you're just going to sit out an extra half hour from the help desk queue and take your half hour's worth of training," right? And we can now schedule it and make it a priority. And now we can hold those folks accountable, right? So now I can sit down with you and go, "Steve, well, you told me you wanted training. I made time for it, but you're not doing the work. What's going on? Are we training you towards a job you didn't really want? Is this not exciting to you? Are you just not interested in growing your career? What's going on?" So that accountability piece goes both ways. Owners making time and making a priority and creating a culture around learning, and the actual employees doing the work and getting it done, and being clear in their communication about where they want to go in their career.
That's really impressive that you have put thought into tracking time for the employees to do training and integrating all of that within the PSA. That's
Somebody
great.
told me if it's not in ConnectWise, it didn't happen. So
Amen to that. Whether you love them or hate them,
yeah.
amen to that.
Yeah, and that'll be an early release. It won't be in version 1, but we'll be getting those PSA integrations built out really fast.
So, what kind of analytics are you going to have for the managers to track progress?
Yeah, we'll have a lot of analytics. We're still building out some of the advanced analytics, but up front and early, it'll be, I assigned Alex a half hour. Did he use a half hour? Is he taking his training? If they assign me 20 hours worth of work and I have a half hour a week scheduled, it'll tell them I need 40 weeks to get my training done, and then we'll be able to see percentages of where I'm at, whether I'm off on track or off track, etc. So pretty early, it's dials and graphs and charts, pretty simple, on track, off track, needs more time, etc. And a little bit of analytics to say, hey, you gave Alex 400 hours of training and you ask him to have it done in the next 6 months. That's probably not realistic, right? So again, some of that accountability and expectation setting.
Now, pricing. Have you figured out pricing? How's that going to work?
Yeah, entry level pricing will be about $25 a user per month. We expect that to scale pretty quickly to the $30 or $35 a user, and that'll include all the training, all the content, et cetera, private peer groups, and the whole 9 yards. Um, there will be some things that are excluded from that, like Baring McKinley, for example, has partnered with us. They're going to come run a CIS focused cybersecurity peer group inside the platform. So when you log into Empath, if you're a paying member of the Barry McKinley peer group, you'll have private access to their content. The peer groups all have this problem of they have a lot of knowledge and a lot of thought leaders and a lot of just proven over time, processes that work, and nowhere to document any of that. They're all having to, build their own SharePoint portals or try and find a way to cram that data into somewhere that their partners can get access to it. And one of the things that we're going to do at Empath is expose private communities so that folks like that can run their community in a trusted platform where their engineers are already spending time.
Perfect. What's adoption and feedback been like so far from early users?
Yeah, so we're at a point where users aren't in the new platform. We've been showing a select group of advisors some screenshots and some information. We've gotten some good feedback as we start to release the product. It's funny you mentioned community early because the one piece of feedback we got was community's not front and center and heavy in in the new product. And the feedback that we got is that's the one thing that we don't want to lose. So that's got to get built really quickly. And once we drop the new product, so. We're listening. We've got partners out there who are already listening. We've got a set of beta partners who are going to be real early adopters on the new platform after the feature freeze. And come February 1st, February 15th, somewhere around then, we'll be looking to bring in additional partners once we solve for the problems that our brave beta partners have gone out and tested out for us.
And can MSPs customize or tailor learning paths specifically for their teams?
Yeah, the expectation is that they'll have to, right? Because if you think about what a learning pathway looks like, let's say I need to teach zero trust to an MSP, right? Well, first we need to teach what the heck is zero trust, right? The kid coming out of AT&T doesn't know what that is. So we teach what is zero trust. That's your 101 level course. Your 201 level course may be how does zero trust help me solve for things that are in the NIST or CIS framework? How do they help me check the boxes that I need in HIPAA? How does it really solve for government regulation and things like that? That'll be a course. Then 301, we're going to talk about, where does all the data live? How do you actually deploy zero trust? What does it really mean to your organization? And then we're probably going to bring in a couple of individual products and let the MSP say, well, we deploy CyberFox and we deploy this, these 5 solutions that help our zero trust implementation work. Here's the how from the vendor. That is how we deploy in a way that supports the CIS framework and all of those other things. So there definitely have to be customized because everybody uses a different stack, right? There's 300 vendors in the MSP space, and we actually talked to an MSP who said, I have 37 portals to log into for training content. Like I just can't. So they're going to have to be able to customize those learning pathways. They're going to have to be able to bring their own content so that they can sit down with a new hire and say, this is how we use Autotask, right? Autotask is a super powerful, super flexible, super customizable product. If you just go watch the Autotask video, it shows you a lot that you can do, but it doesn't show you how my MSP uses it. So they'll have to be able to put their own content in those learning journeys as well that says, here's how we use the tool that we're talking about here. So they'll be completely customizable, but we'll give you a starting point out the door to say, hey, starting from zero, here's some things you should consider.
All right. So I want you to change what hat you're wearing right now.
Okay.
Right now you're wearing the I'm with Empath and I'm here to educate MSPs on how and why they should get into Empath, right? But let's talk about MSPs and maybe even other vendors uh, who have a great idea and they want to turn that idea into a business.
Yeah.
So so how are you marketing Empath right now? I know you guys are doing a lot with LinkedIn. I know you did Rejection Con, which um whatever. I mean, I know you did a great thing with it. You raised money and donated it. You gave people who had great talks the opportunity to give those talks, even though they were rejected elsewhere. But that's also a great way for you to market the product, right?
Well, yeah, it was a way for us to get out and say we're building something around community. So let's plant our flag and say we are the community platform, right? And not just for the popular kids in the community, not just for the cool kids in the community, but for the entire community. Because we had some amazing talks at Rejection Con. It was amazing. But to your point, there's a book out there that I'm a huge fan of. The Founder Brand is a fantastic book, and what it talks about is most founders build a product because they're solving a problem. And it's really hard to spend a lot of money to build a product and then all of a sudden find yourself where we launched a product, we have 0 people in it, and now I have to go market and sell this thing after I just spent my life savings building it. So in the Founder Brand, they talk about how you can build a following on social media by talking about the problem that you're solving. And if you go back and look at my content and Wes's content and Kyle's content, they've been heavily around education and training and upskilling MSPs. And sure, we dabble in a lot of other different things. We stick our nose into all kinds of different things in the MSP space. But largely, we're talking about the problem that we're going to solve so that we get a following of people who believe in the same thing that we do, that see the same problem that we do and are looking for a fix for it. And then when we release a product, it's easy for those people to come to us and go, that's what you've been talking about this whole time. I need to see what you're doing. And so you build up that interest by talking about the problem that you've identified and the fact that it needs a fix. And sometimes the fix is manual. So on your first go round, your first edition, you're just talking about, hey, here's how you build a spreadsheet to track that. And when you launch the product, you can say, and here we automate it all. This is how we make it easy for you. But the Founder Brand is a fantastic book. It's on Audible if you're not a big reader. It is absolutely required reading in my mind for anybody who's considering a startup. It is about as good as it gets.
So cool. Um, what has been your biggest surprise along this journey so far, starting another company?
The bill from the developers. I guess we took for granted the fact that I had 2 developers on staff last time. So Kurt and Nick, thank you very much for being way cheaper than the developers that we hired to build this. Um, yeah, it's expensive, right? You go from a world where you're cashing a paycheck and you're regularly not worried about putting money on the table, putting food on the table, to a point where you're not employed. You're doing it on your own and you're paying somebody out of pocket to go build something for you. And it is as Wes says, developers are always going to be more expensive than you think. Everything's always going to take longer and cost more than you think it's going to, and it does. So it's been we wanted to have a product on the street by now. We wanted to be out there selling something by now. It's been a little slower and a little more expensive than we had hoped, but we're super happy with the product that's coming out. We think that our developers really hit the vision. So we're happy with it. We're excited about it, but it is always the hard part is the patience and the amount of work that it takes to get that first version of the product out the door. Iteration seems really easy and like a low lift after that. You just continue to listen to your partners and iteratively improve and make it a little better every time once it's out the door.
So how do you fund a startup like this?
Yeah,
Is this
that's a great
something
question.
that you self fund or do you go out and look for funding?
Yeah, so I think the answer is it depends on your situation.
Mhm.
We're lucky in a place that most of us have on this team have been through an exit of some kind, and we're self-funding this so that we retain total control and can go build what we want to build and don't have some VC telling us what we have to do. Um, if you're not in that position, if you haven't been lucky in the past and you're building something kind of bootstrapped, you got 2 options. You can go ask somebody else to help you fund it, in which case you're going to give up some control, or you can go find yourself a technical co-founder who can help you build it. And that's what we did at Lifecycle. We had technical co-founders who could write the product and develop the product, et cetera. And that was what we did. So there's a couple different ways to do it. I think for everybody it's different. If somebody in the audience is got an idea and you're thinking about something and you want to kick that around, give me a call. Like, we're happy to talk about it. We'll talk through the options and those kind of things. There are, and there's good money and bad money out there, right? You can take money that comes with a ton of strings. You can take money that's just by good people who understand the problem, who want to support you, and are going to put some resources into helping you build it. But the thing that most founders don't think about, and most software companies don't think about, and I think it's pretty prevalent in the MSP space, they don't think about the fact that you only get to give away your equity once. Right? I have 100% of a company. I split it 3 ways between 3 founders. Now we each all have 33%. When I bring in an equity partner who wants 49%, now all of a sudden we each go down to 16%, like that, right? And we can never get that equity back. And so every time you have to raise, you lose a little more and a little more. So it should be the last thing you give up right ahead of oxygen, because it's the one thing in your business that you just can't get back. So it's, in my mind, I'm happier to struggle a little bit and have the grind in the beginning than to give away all the equity in hopes that there's going to be some moonshot. Because equity makes you hire a big team. It gives you the resources to grow something. And then if sales doesn't keep up, you run out of money, and then you got to go hire. You got to either feed a big team or lay off a big team or go raise money again and give away more equity. So there's a self-fulfilling prophecy and a real problem there if you give away equity too soon.
Hmm, very cool. Let's go back to content for
Yeah.
a few questions here. Where do you see the MSP skills gap being the most pronounced so far? I have an opinion, but I want to know yours, and I also want to know if you have facts to back it up somehow.
I don't have facts to back it up. I think there's two different gaps. One is skills, and one is mentality. And I think there's a broken mentality that we can fix with education. That is that I can buy products to solve for problems. Most of the products that you buy in the space simply make it easier to solve for a problem, but if you don't have the understanding of why, your products aren't going to solve your problem. Everybody's looking to tool themselves out of a problem. I want to go buy myself some threat locker so that I don't have to worry about keeping machines clean. That's just not the way that it works. It doesn't matter what tools you buy. You still need to restrict admin creds and watch where your data goes and go through all the processes and that kind of thing. And to that end, I think the biggest gap is the difference between I can fix a computer and I understand how to identify and protect my client's data by deploying some sort of a framework and doing complete security instead of just I can fix a computer and click some buttons in 365 and keep things reasonably safe. And for a lot of years we got away with I can keep things reasonably safe. I can take away the pointy stick and keep my customer from poking their eye out. Now we're in a world where that's not good enough anymore. Business email compromises everywhere. Misconfigurations are the second most common cause of a breach after human error. We're just in a world where security is not optional anymore, and enterprise security needs to make its way down to smaller and smaller and smaller organizations. So the issue in my mind is the big skills gap is insecurity. Everybody always wants to talk about sales, and we think we're terrible at sales. I think we're better at sales than we realize. What we're bad at in sales is just getting at bats so that we can practice.
You know, I never even thought about that. I mean, I do think about it, but I guess I never really thought of it in those words. You said, and what at least what I heard was, there are a lot of MSPs that don't necessarily know how to provide solid, like we'll call it cybersecurity, and we'll just focus there, right?
Mhm.
Unless they can find some tools that do it for them and deploy those tools, but
Yeah.
they don't have the fundamental knowledge of how would I go about deploying a threat locker esque solution if I needed to do it manually using group policy and whatever else.
Group policies and reg edits and all the other things that it would take to do that, right? Permission,
Right.
security, all that. And I think knowing what you're solving for is super critical so that you know that you configure the tool that you buy right. If you don't know how to do it manually, you don't have any business doing it with a tool. And vendors will still sell it to you because there's money for them to be made in reducing the friction, making it easy, giving you a click and drool product. But the more of these click and drool products we have, the less we think about what every click does, the less we pay attention to the security of our customers. And we still need to go through and trust but verify, right? Go look at that product and make sure that the logs that are coming out of it show us that it's doing what we think it's doing. Test the product and make sure that we can't bypass it or cause some malfunction in it that just doesn't cause it to do what it was originally designed to do. So there's always there's a product, there's 10 products out there to sell you to solve every problem. And my answer to every MSP is stop. Don't go buy a product until you've run yourself through NIST or CIS or HIPAA or whatever framework you're adopting and identified what the real problem is you're trying to solve. And then go test products specifically just to solve that problem. We have a shiny things problem in this space, and I'm guilty of it as an MSP owner. I bought all the shiny things.
Mhm.
And shiny things are great. We see them at shows. The sales guy gives us a good pitch. It's going to get us our time back. It's going to save us our money. It's going to make us all rich, yada, yada.
Mhm.
How many 50-cent an endpoint licenses do you have to sell to get rich? That number is ridiculously high. And we're buying things for the wrong reason.
I love that quote. If you don't know how to do it manually, you shouldn't do it with a tool. And and I think that right there, all vendors, if they really want to um, move the needle forward for the MSP channel, then maybe they should teach MSPs how to do what their product is doing,
Yeah.
but like super manually, because that's
We did
that's
some
really
of
the
that
only
at
way to do it,
Lifecycle.
right?
Yeah, we did some of that at Lifecycle. Here's a spreadsheet. If I didn't have Lifecycle Insights, here's the spreadsheet I would use to go do account management and VCIO work the way that we did it at Lifecycle. And we just gave it away. And everybody says, why are you giving this away? This is all your secret sauce. Yeah, but I give you click button, get banana. And you now have to export data out of 17 tools, go do a bunch of Chinese math and figure out how all this works to put it all together and build a roadmap for your customer, build a risk assessment for your customer. You have a lot of work to do. I'll take all that work away from you and let you buy back your time. Um, but for most vendors, that's not realistic. They just don't have the resources, the bandwidth, the ability, because they've got PE breathing down their neck going, just sell more licenses. To hell with the training, just sell more licenses. Um, Most vendors will give you just enough training to teach you how to sell more licenses, and it's just a weird conundrum that they're stuck in. So it's up to the MSP to go outside of the vendor to get that level of training, that tier one version of training on the problem that they're trying to solve. A lot of really good vendors just don't have the bandwidth to go out and build all of that training. And that's not a knock on any of the vendors. In fact, some of the ones that we've talked to have said, hey, we'll work with you to do that, but we just don't know how, or we don't have the capability to really build useful training in that. So I'll say, we've had a lot of really, really great vendors come to us and say, we want to be involved with Empath. We'll give you the resources, we'll give you the smart people, but how do you make that into training that works? And we're going to be working with some vendors to do exactly that. We're talking to Connor at Finn, and I'm happen to be wearing a shirt, so he's the first one that comes to mind. But talking to Connor, the original piece of training, the tier one piece of training is, what the heck is security awareness training, and why does it matter, and how do I talk to my customer about it? The second version of it is, how do I build a security awareness training program in my organization that actually works and moves the needle and changes culture? And after that, we can buy a product, but we got to learn those things first.
Such good information. What emerging tech skills? And let me rewind. You said I asked you where you see the MSP skills gap being most pronounced right now. I think it is a much more generic answer. I think it's cybersecurity. I think I think there are a lot of MSPs that really don't understand the depth in which they could take cybersecurity, and even worse, um, there are a lot of MSPs who aren't really. I don't know that they're not taking it seriously.
No, they're not taking it seriously. That's a fair statement. And the reason I answered your question the way that I did was that I think if someone adopts a framework and learns how to take the techie stuff they know and apply it to a framework, those frameworks will teach them cybersecurity as they go. Because
Mhm.
most of those frameworks are designed to solve for cybersecurity, right? If you go look at any of the big frameworks, but CIS, 5 of the CIS controls are about inventories. Who and what am I trying to protect? Which is the first place to start. That's why IG1 is, or Control 1 is inventory of your assets. Control 2 is inventory of your data, of your users. You're literally going to learn What is it and why does it matter?
Mm.
So I think the frameworks are the place to start to teach cybersecurity. Um, I always like to talk about putting people in a defensible position. So, you put me up on the stand after my MSP gets breached, and the attorney says to me, "Hey, where did you get the set of standards that you use to protect that customer that got breached?" Well, some bald guy on the internet told me it was good enough. That doesn't cut it, right? Hey, I self-selected between, we looked at CIS and NIST and 800, 171, and we decided that CIS was more applicable to our client base. So we used an internationally recognized framework of best practices that's managed and monitored by a nationally recognized cybersecurity and organization in CIS, Centers for Internet Security, right? We picked an industry recognized framework and we began deploying that. And yes, my customer didn't get all the way through IG3 because they ran on a budget, but we've been working through the implementation groups as they were set out for my customer. That's a defensible answer, right? That's me being able to say, I did everything I could. My guy didn't have $1 billion to spend on technology, so we didn't get it all done. So we've got to put ourselves in that position. But anyway, that's a total rant from your question. You were going somewhere else with that question.
No, no, that's
Yeah.
quite all right. Because, like I said, man, I'm just I've got these questions, and sometimes we go on, rabbit trails and
There you go.
squirrel. So what emerging tech skills do you think MSPs should be focused on developing in their teams?
Yeah,
Should it be cybersecurity?
I don't think cybersecurity is emerging. I think cybersecurity, we're very close to that being the 2008, 2010 of managed services, right? Everybody led with managed services in 2008. We're going to standardize your billing. We're going to give you flat rate. We're going to give you predictable revenue. We're going to get to problems before you know they're problems, and we're going to fix it all, right? That's what set us apart from the break fix shops in 2008, 2010, 2012. Today, folks are learning to lead with cybersecurity. They're learning to have that conversation. It's not a solved problem. We got work to do, but I don't think there's a huge skills gap there. And if there is, we know where to go to solve it. We have the solutions. I think the next real gap is an understanding of and an ability to have a real conversation, a real business conversation about risk, opportunity, value of AI in our businesses. And I know AI is it's the buzzword right now. But I think that there is a portion of AI that is not even close to ready, and we're worried about things that don't need to be worried about yet. But I think there's a real cool world where you take all of the knowledge base that an organization has and you dump it into an AI, and you get a thing that you can play Q&A with, and you can get back information way faster. How much time does that save folks who are doing chat support all day, every day, or folks who are doing, customer Q&A or engaging with customers all day, every day? There's a huge time savings and a huge value savings to be made there. If you look at what Jimmy Hatzel's building, he's on the forefront of solving a big problem with AI. AI promises to solve every problem in the world. And I think the skill that's missing right now in the MSP space is us figuring out what problems it's actually best suited to solve and how to use it to solve very, very pinpoint problems that add a ton of value to our customers, so they're willing to pay some consulting and engagement fee for us to come out and help them do that.
Are you looking for more trainers or maybe mentors? And how
Yes.
should someone contact you for that?
Alex at empathmsp.com.
Okay.
Or find me on LinkedIn. We are absolutely looking for trainers, coaches. We are very much looking for folks to help us on this journey. We're very aware of our limited skill set, and we're working with some great people to get content out. We have a pretty good list at this point, but I would imagine we could find 2 or 3 times as many people as we have today, and we would still have great content for them to deliver and teach. So if you feel like you're an expert in something, if you feel like there's this little niche in the MSP space that is like your passion and the thing that you want to solve, reach out. If you're friends with Wes or Kyle, reach out to one of them, go poke one of them. They would love to hear from you too. But don't hesitate to reach out to me. We would love to have more folks talking about, their superpower in our platform.
So for the MSP who's been neglectful
Mhm.
with their cybersecurity studies, what is the best? And I know this is going to be a stupid question in a way. What is the best framework for them to start with when they just want to have a baseline for all their clients, no regulatory compliance stuff? They just want a baseline.
You're going to start a religious battle here, but
Yeah, no,
my,
iPhone or Android, man.
Yeah, my framework of religion is CIS. I'm a huge fan. I find it to be more prescriptive and more dumbed down for the sales guy over here than NIST, which seems to be more high level and aspirational. I think you get a little more directive out of CIS, but I also am a huge fan of implementation groups. Right, CIS is 18 controls, and then with sub controls, it's way bigger than that. I don't even know if it's 100 or 180 or 200 or whatever. There are a ton of controls in CIS. Um, the biggest problem I always had is I don't know where to start. And
Mhm.
CIS gives me a where to start. Hey, go take some inventories, know who and what you're trying to protect, and then baby step your way into the next control and the next control and the next control. And that's why we're so excited about what Barry McKinley's doing, because they're literally building a peer group around this. And every month they will teach a new control. They'll send you home with homework and allow you to kind of build your practice over 18 months as you work your way through all 18 controls.
So I didn't even think about that. So CIS, the controls, like you literally should start with control one and it kind of builds upon itself.
Not really. If you go
Okay.
look at what you need to look at is the CIS implementation groups, and CIS
Mhm.
implementation group one has starts with control one and part of the sub controls from control one. But there's parts of individual controls, like control five, I think exists in all three implementation groups. So you will have, inventory your assets, maybe the beginnings of CIS control one, but then you have automated inventory. Then you have detection of rogue devices and things like that. So the controls stack and kind of compound. But if you just take the part that's implementation group one, it gives you a really great place to start, and you can work your way through that in a pretty easy fashion.
And is CIS the, I don't know, framework of choice that Empath is going to like laser focus on, or are you guys going to talk
No.
about all of them?
We will have content in there around HIPAA, around NIST, around CIS, around
Great.
CMMC. Each of those has its own use case. And my statement to folks is, if you're a CMMC shop, you know it. If you need to meet HIPAA guidelines, you know it. If you're out there going, we really just work with general businesses and we don't know what framework to pick, then your industry hasn't defined your framework for you, and that's when CIS is probably a good fit. CIS is not a good fit if you work with government contractors. You need to go do
Mhm.
CMMC just like they do. If you're working in medical, you need to go do HIPAA just like they do. You may cross map some of those things and say, well, in CIS, this is inventory, and in HIPAA, this is inventory. Those are the same control, and as long as I solve for it in one, I solve for it in both. But if you're just not sure where to start and you're starting from zero, I think CIS is the easiest. And they've done an amazing job of coming to our community. You see Phyllis Lee out there on Andrew Morgan's live streams, working with him and working with that team. They come to the community and are helping to help us build our specializations and our skill sets around CIS. So I like that about them too.
Excuse me. Alex, thank you so much for coming on here and doing this with me today,
Yeah,
man.
always fun.
Um, I'm sure we could sit here and we could talk about cybersecurity for hours, but I don't want to bore people. It looks like everyone left. So
Yeah, they all ran away from us.
they all, as soon as we got serious and started telling them all the things they're doing wrong, they were like, "Peace out."
That's funny.
So, but no, this has been super educational. I love what you're doing at Empath. I can't wait to check it out. Please let me know if you decide you want to educate MSPs on how to do some like marketing stuff better.
Yeah,
Keep me in mind. I'm happy to come on and
reach
do a
out to
little
us.
session with you
Yeah,
guys.
we'd love to have you.
Wonderful. Well,
Awesome.
thank you so much, and thank you for those of you watching and sticking around. I will catch you guys at the next episode next week. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.